it's that time of year again, and I'm not talking about fall, which it is, and the trees are turning pretty nice outside. And I'll probably get you some clips of that later in my vlogs. But what I'm talking about is the Apple MacBook event that will happen tomorrow, October 27th. But is it going to be the MacBook Pro we all expected it to be through these years? When you see Pro, you expect it to have Pro features that you can rely on to do your work, whether at home or in the office. But is it really a Pro that they're going to release tomorrow? From the rumors I've seen, it may or may not live up to those standards. But let's take a look at the history of MacBook. Steve Jobs introduced the MacBook Pro back in 2006 at Macworld, and it was a 15-inch one at that time, which later they introduced a 17-inch. But at that time, the features of that laptop were such as a Wi-Fi, DVD drive, Bluetooth, USB ports, FireWire port, Express card port, DVI port, SD card slot, and an iSight camera, which was the first time that their laptop introduced a camera onto the laptop itself. Usually you had to hang something from the LCD screen. Now the next time they did any changes to the MacBook Pro line was in 2008. That's when they introduced their all-aluminum unibody for the MacBook Pro. There was also some changes made on that. They moved most of the ports to the left-hand side. They moved the optical drive from the front of the laptop to the side, right side. The trackpad lost its two buttons, left and right buttons, and became a clickable trackpad. Now after that, the next time they introduced any kind of changes to the MacBook Pro line was 2010. So they've been doing some changes here and there every 2 years. That's when they introduced some new Intel Core processors, and they also introduced into their line of MacBook Pros by Intel the Thunderbolt port. In 2012, Apple introduced a new MacBook Pro line, which included a thinner design, a high-resolution display, also known as Retina display, and they replaced their hard drives with solid-state drives. But we did lose a few things at that year, which included the 17-inch model and the optical drive on the side. Some of the things that did stick around were the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, SDXC card slot, HDMI port, and 2 Thunderbolt ports. Now fast forward today, 2016, tomorrow is the announcement of the new MacBook Pro. We'll be going through a radical design from what we've seen in rumors, and that includes a much thinner design, 4 USB-C ports, no SDXC slot, no HDMI slot, thinner keyboard with less travel, similar to the one they currently have on their 12-inch MacBook. But one of the new features they'll be introducing on the new MacBook Pro is an OLED Magic Toolbar. This will replace the function keys at the top of the keyboard, and it will be contextual with whatever program you're currently working in. One of the key features they hope to use this for is for Apple Pay, because at the far end of this Magic Toolbar is a Touch ID for your fingerprint for verification. Now I don't mind changes, and a thinner and lighter laptop is always nice and a good workflow. It would work for me because I'm always working from a desk or from a couch as far as editing the vlog and everything. But with a few of these ports disappearing on me, the SD card slot in particular, I don't know if that's going to work for my workflow or not. So is this MacBook Pro still going to be considered a Pro even though it's losing some of its valued ports? Now the USB-C ports do add value to the laptop as far as charging, a higher throughput for data, but I also will be missing those other ports that I use every day, such as the SD card slot and the HDMI port. But you're going to have to carry some dongles until the USB-C becomes a little more standard in the industry. But I still don't see where I would be able to put my SD card slot without an adapter. And that's the one reason I use the card slot on my current MacBook Pro, is to download the footage into Final Cut Pro. So it's less than 24 hours till we'll know for sure what these changes to the new MacBook Pro line will be and how it will affect us as professionals. Will the MacBook Pro still be able to keep its moniker as Pro, or will it just become another MacBook Pro 15-inch? We'll see tomorrow.